Hello.
Hello.
Good day. Good day. Remembered this morning. We don't always show this. Long story short, we film this in the morning. You all know this.
Because you do the same story.
I know.
every
We put it out in
single
the afternoon, and we just keep saying good morning. We don't want to say good morning. That's it. That's
Takes 40 days to break a habit, doesn't it?
Takes 40 days. We've not broken this habit yet. But that's really good segue into today's topic.
Yeah.
It is. What's today's topic, Emily?
Oh, we've touched on it throughout the week. Actually, it's all been about resilience and. Obviously, Alan fanboying over his mate Ross.
I have to point out, this is... I do get passionate about things. I don't know if that comes across. And I'm not sponsored. We're not sponsored by Ross. He's not paying us to talk about his book. It's just blowing my mind. Not blown my mind, but it's blowing my mind. It doesn't matter. It does matter. I'll tell you in a minute.
Alan just had a proper little fanboy moment when a previous client of ours commented on a post, because there's a picture of this in our social media post today, and he's like, I went to school with Ross, and I'm going, 6 degrees of separation, you're practically BFFs right now.
I am now BFF with Ross Edgley. He just doesn't know it.
He just doesn't know. He has never met him.
I think that's class as stalking if they don't know it. So without wishing to make joke of something serious. Yeah.
But what today's post was about inspiration, I suppose, and what inspires you. And we surround ourselves with a lot of inspiration daily, and not all of it is necessarily business related, but in a way the non-business stuff kind of...
You've gone straight to the kind of the hook. I thought we were leading to... No, I love it. But no, you're right. Let's go straight to the point. The point is...
How it kind of... Look, behind us, right, we've got 3 big bookshelves in this room. That one's full of adventure, travel stories, celebrity autobiographies. This one is filled with, apart from Kirsty Allsop's sewing stuff that I've never even opened, business books,
Harry Potter.
This side of the room is the stuff that gets read time and time and time again. There are lovely business books there that I always get recommendations from other business folk who say, you need to read this in your life. I will not even open that jacket. I will not open that copy. But
why'd you buy them then?
Because I feel like I'm going to. And then things like this come out, and I'd rather read...
I didn't know you could read.
I've got a degree in English, Alan.
Well, I just said it. Doesn't mean you can read, my darling.
Crib notes.
Yeah. But...
what kind of things inspire you as a business that help shape your story? I mean,
Well, I've got a couple of things at the moment I've been talking about, haven't I? So one, this has inspired me, and to the extent where I FaceTime my mum every day. Hi, Mum. And Mum, I think it was like Wednesday or something like that, went, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you look all right. That's the difference." I said, "No, I'm fine." She said, "No, you look a bit more lively, a bit." I had a shower actually, so I've been for a run, but there's a couple of key parts there. And I said, "Well, Mum, nothing's really changed." I said, "The only thing is I'm reading a book that's inspiring me." And she went, "Well, okay." She said, "But that's coming across on this FaceTime." And I actually love reading. I love adventure and autobiographies. And if I can find an adventure or an autobiography, then I'm laughing. I don't like losing myself in fiction. I have to think about that. I don't like losing. That's not my style. I love reality. So I love autobiographies. And what's inspiring me about Ross's book, very quick, before I get to my more important inspiration at the moment, actually, what's inspiring me about Ross's book is it's not what he's achieved, it's the thought process he went through to achieve it. And I've done a few things, like stupid things, from flipping the tyre 1,000 times to running across deserts and other ultra marathons, and I've cycled Land's End to John O'Groats and all these things. And I've always felt I've had a bit of brute force and ignorance to get me through it. And Ross says brute force and ignorance is really good, but actually, if you start to break down what brute force and ignorance actually is and look at the science underneath it, you'll then understand it, and it doesn't become brute force and ignorance. It becomes practice you put into play. Is that the right phrase?
Practice you put into play.
Yeah, that'll do anyway. It becomes something you've practiced that actually you then do. So that's why I'm enjoying it, and it's making me want to. And he's a big advocate of adventures need not be complicated. So
I love that as a...
Yeah, so that was one of the things of the tyre, because I can't currently fly to a desert to run across it. Yeah. And I don't want to, if I'm honest, because I'm quite enjoying my family life and my business. So that's where things like the tyre flipping coming in. I've got this thing in my head about pushing a wheelbarrow to my mum's house that's like I don't know, how far is Mum? Whatever, 30 miles, 25
miles, yeah.
miles, something like that.
More than that, okay.
Yeah, but no, it's not. It's not. It's closer than you think.
Is it?
Yeah. Mum lives in Andover. Don't go and find her. But the other one that's inspiring me is our 4-year-old who's about to turn 5.
God,
I know. Ben's been saying a lot, Daddy, this is easy. So when I'm like, we've been learning to ride a bike and other silly things like just writing, not silly things to him, obviously, but writing, it's like, Daddy, this is easy. And I'm sitting there thinking, if a 4-year-old, and he says it slightly past tense, but that's kind of as important as kind of future tense. And I'm like, well, hold on, if my 4-year-old can go, this is easy, and we can help him maintain that mindset, and I can introduce that into things I do when I'm thinking about something a bit more complex, I go, well, if my 4-year-old thinks things are easy, why can't I?
There's something about the mouth of babes, isn't there, anyway, but the fact that...
Well, sorry, I was faffing about going for a run the other day, and Ben went, Dad, just go for a run. And I'm like, yep, he's got a point. And I put my trainers on and I went out the door.
The childish mind doesn't overthink, and we've talked about this week as well in terms of overthink.
Sorry, I'll tell a story about Ben in a minute. No, apologies for interrupting.
They don't overthink, they just get things done, and it is the fact that they will challenge themselves to get to the next thing, and they won't overthink the fact that they can't do it or what they're capable of. They just do it. And
anything they do has been pushed on them by adults anyway.
So our post out today was about what's inspired you this week.
Sorry, child psychologists, if I've got that wrong.
Someone put about David Goggins and about the 40% rule in terms of you think you have hit your capacity, and then you realise that actually you're only hitting the capacity of 40% of what you're completely able to achieve. And it was so true. You were talking about the glass ceiling this week, and once you've smashed that glass ceiling, who knows what we can get to above that. Basically,
the mind is the limiting factor in pretty much anything.
You just got to get out and do it. Hello. All right. Alan and I have...
What's wrong, Skippy? What is it?
All right, one sec. We're going to see it in a minute.
We'll come and have a look in a second.
Alan and I have always talked about... We have both done desert runs before. One of mine was probably one of the hardest ones I've done because I wasn't fit and didn't think I could run and everything. And it was hot and I was tired and my legs were... I was walking like a cowboy most days. And then I turned around and... There were two very distinct. There was a team and there was a solo runner on the same race, both of which had blind runners in it. Okay, so Simon Wheatcroft, love you Simon. Simon Wheatcroft he ran an ultra marathon unassisted. He had a guide who was next to him for safety reasons, but he completely blind ran using new technology with a beep in his ear to tell him whether to go left or right or what kind of terrain he was coming up to. So he ran that challenge. The other team had blind runners that they were all, as a team, staying together. They had varying abilities. Again, similar kind of athletes to me.
I'll be back in a second. I'm sorry.
Not athletic necessarily, but they were giving themselves the challenge of doing an already incredibly difficult task of running across like six marathons back to back in a week across a desert, but without the viability of sight. And it kind of rained back to me thinking, actually, do you know what? I'm finding this hard right now, but I've just got to knuckle down and go, do you know what? Everyone's got a challenge, but everyone can go above their expectations, above their limits, and whatever's in your head is just the noises in your head telling you something different, and actually you can exceed. And this is what resilience, Ross Edgley said a little bit in terms of just you can keep going, you can.
Well, I think that's exactly what he does. He turns, and it's very interesting because I had this theory on love once, which I may share one day. Basically, too much we just rely on this. But if you can try and break it down a bit more black and white, then it will help you get past it. Basically, is kind of some of his point. Hopefully I've not got that wrong. But by looking at the science behind it and exploring what fight or flight is and what's happening and how you can, that's to say, he's basically swimming in the outer Hebrides with a basking shark, but kind of exploring why he wasn't scared. And he's put it down to the fact that he'd practiced things, so therefore it removed an element of the fight or flight from it. So that's what he's saying, that's that section, and there's lots of lessons in there. So I would like to know. I've got a story to finish on.
Okay.
But
I bet you're over 10 minutes now.
No, I know, but I'm going to wrap up. Can I wrap up?
Yeah.
So we want to know who's inspiring you, what books. You know, we've talked about Ross, we've talked about David Goggins, we've talked about Simon Wheatcroft. We've talked about Ben, our son. So who's inspiring you at the moment? A couple of things. So Gary V says, and I like this, but just kind of a finisher line before my finished story. If you're tired, you're not tired, you're uninspired. So just think about that. Perhaps you need to find some inspiration when you're feeling a bit lethargic. Final story from me about Ben, our son. Long story short, we've said this week about me being a bit of an overthinker, and it's nothing bad. I just think about things a bit a lot. If you're an overthinker, you'll understand what I mean. And Ben shows signs of being very much like me. And I don't want to push everything on him, but you know, sometimes. So we were going to sleep the other night, and I said, Ben, do you sometimes think a lot? He's like, yes, Daddy. I said, oh, okay. I said, but what do you think about? Forgetting he's 4 years old, thinking he thinks like I think. He said, oh, I think about all the toys I want. I said, oh, okay. He said, I want so many toys the house will explode. And I was like, he's 4. That's what he thinks about. Right. Have a fab day.
Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, have a fab weekend. Yeah. And let us know who inspires you.
Bye.
Bye.